another Legacy stream. So you remember this morning when I said I was going to stream Stasis? Obviously, that was a lie. Apologies for that again. For anyone who did not watch the previous sort of like Enchantress bonus stream from this morning, I registered Enchantress instead of Stasis because I had like touched the Enchantress deck, switched back to the Stasis deck, but I had like recently changed a card in the Enchantress deck, so like we ended up playing Enchantress instead of Stasis this morning. So apologies to Stephen S. Your donation deck list is happening now instead of this morning. We were on the wrong side of variation and variance this morning, but the deck list was very clearly better. So, let's just ignore the sideboard. But, like, the main deck from this morning was, like, very, very good. And I was super happy with the changes that I made. But I think, ended up going 2-3 this morning. We got absolutely nut-drawed by Matt Soul on Maverick. And then we lost a couple other ones that were pretty close. Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to, like, 100% verify. Alright, so Stasis Deck Tech Round 2. Going into this, I'm going to say that if I can 2-3 tonight, I'm ecstatic. If I can 1-4 tonight, I'm okay with that. I don't think this deck is good. When you're playing Stasis, you're doing it for the meme. So the goal is to use some combination of Root Maze and Stasis, as well as the various like mana producers that can bounce our land or dazes, to maintain a Stasis lock. Robbot, thank you very much for your continued support as well. I hope all is going well in your life. Haven't chatted with you in a while, but I hope things are well. Sorry. So essentially, we are a hard prison deck. I think the problem is it's actually very difficult to win the game with this deck if your opponent doesn't concede, just because you have to get to 3 mana for an Oko while also maintaining your Stasis. And that seems pretty darn tricky to me. So we can keep the Stasis lock with Forgotten City, Quarian Ranger, or Scrib Ranger. So those are things to think about going into this league. That we need one of those plus Stasis to have a lock. I expect that if we get any wins tonight, it's because of our opponent scooping in frustration. All right, now why are we on Red Prison? I have not touched Red Prison since opening this stream. I don't get it, Moto. You joked about something last week, and then it happened. I'm curious now. Oh, the Paradigm Shift deck? Yeah, that was hilarious. I saw that. I'm sad that my Enchantress deck didn't make it into this week's deck list dump. I have to wait a whole nother week to see that in there. Okay, hold up. Hold up. So I just reselected my deck. And it... Ah! I'm on to you, Red Prison. You're doing everything you can in your power to prevent me from playing the Stasis deck. You're just trying to protect me from the horrors that are to come. Alright. I'm glad I had, like, active video evidence of that this time around. I don't know, folks. Alright. So, Stasis by Stephen S. We've got it. Legacy League. Burn 100 play points. Let's do it. Yeah, I don't know, guys. But I'm glad that I now know to pay attention to that so that that does not happen again in the future. Because I'm pretty sure that if I had registered Red Prison in this league, I would have been fired. That's it. Just end me now. Over under on how long this league will take. We set the line at 2 hours and 15 minutes. Daily D&T featuring Red Prison. I haven't done anything that crazy yet. There was the one time that I played like a White Eldrazi deck for Daily D&T. It wasn't quite White Eldrazi, but it was somewhere between White Eldrazi and Daily D&T. It was like right before Red and 6 got banned, and I had to read on that, so it's just like, nope, not making a video for a dead format. Let's do something interesting instead. What do we win if we take the under? The Hackbird, I don't know. Precious hours of your evening. Root Maze Stasis in the opening hand. This hand's terrible, right? So obviously we're keeping it. Because this is hilarious. Kill me on turn 1. Unmask me. Resolves. Yeah, I have Force of Will. Am I playing Leylines? I hope I'm playing Leylines. We might be able to mize a win by playing Leylines. So that Root Maze was pretty critical to my strategy. What do I do against a Grizzlebrand? No, I've F6. I don't need to wait for anything. What do I do if my opponent plays Grizzlebrand? Get to 3 mana and Oko it? Yeah. So my opponent produces a Grizzlebrand with the ability to draw 14 cards and 2 floating mana? No. We'll try again. Oh, man, we have so much graveyard hate. Maybe our deck's good. Yes. GG, well played, opponent. Maybe this. I have a lot of needles for Grizzlebrand. So it feels like Stasis is significantly less good against my opponent. Because they don't need many resources to go off. It's still a lock thing with Root Maze, so I'm not going to cut all of them. I feel like those can probably go. Cut 3 Root Maze, 4 Stasis, for 4 Fail of Summer, 2 Tarmogoyf, and 1 Green Sun. I'm actually legitimately thinking about that now. I know that's kind of cheating, but is it correct? Because I do feel like the Stasis portion of the deck is just very bad against my opponent. And I can just play a giant pile of things that stop their discard. Tarmogoyfs and Green Suns for Tarmogoyfs. I do kind of feel like that's the correct strategy. And my ramp just ramps me to Oko. Alright. So let's cut that. Cut this. And I'm still heavy. Rangers? That's still 62. Trim one needle. Trim one of these. Sure. Now we are playing an awkward deck. Wait, we were doing that already. That hasn't changed. This is turn 2 Oko. Turn 3 Tarmogoyf. That's not bad and all, but I'm going to try to find a ley line. I'm going to try to find a ley line and a mana source. I mean, technically, that's... Yeah, 100% monkey paw. Like, you ask for it, you get it. I think I need to keep this. It's just bad. Like, we're going to keep that Forsaken City, play it, not play it until I get a Tarmogoyf, then question marks from there. So, like, we keep this. As much as I love the idea of veiling a discard spell, I don't think we're going to have that convenience early on. So we're going to pitch Veil, Daze, click Done, perform an opening action. Okay. Chancellor, so we're not actually Force-a-willing anything unless I tap this Forsaken City. Which is super awkward for every possible reason. Yes. Go on. Yes. See, these are my favorite Faithless Lootings. The kind that send cards directly into exile. Opponent also did this off of Lotus Petals, not lands. We need to not forget about this. This is a long, Faithless Looting. Alright, what's in the exile zone? So many Lotus Petals. And no land? Thoughtseize targeting me. Yes. You can take my Tarmogoyf. Or you can take my Force of Will. I don't really care either way. This is a hand that we've kept, hoping that our opponent did not bring in answers to a ley line. Alright, that's just always going to trigger even if this isn't untapped. Yay! Land! So I still need to clear the Chancellor trigger here. But that's okay. We have lots of 1-drops. Okay. So now we can clear the Chancellor if my opponent casts any spell. Which I might just do. Alright, Forsaken City. Real talk, though. Please, opponent, cast something. I need to clear this trigger. I'm just going to pass the turn. So I might end up just, like, junking my Scrib Ranger, discarding the Daze, and then playing Tarmogoyf. The upside to this is that it turns Tarmogoyf into a 2/3. This isn't the best. But it grows the Tarmogoyf. So we exile this Daze. Nice. That can also grow the Tarmogoyf if we need it to. So the fear now is that my opponent will just get enough mana to hardcast something. We have the graveyard real taken care of. Go, little Tarmogoyf. Dazing Grizzlebrand. Confirmed sick. Opponent has so many cards. Yeah. Ponder is literally the card that I wanted to draw. It puts a sorcery into the graveyard. Oko. Okay. So let's leave Oko on top of our library. We can draw Brainstorm to have more counterspells up. Or, no. So let's do it. Meh. I'm going to do this in sort of an awkward way. So doing it this way means that I don't need to discard a land or some other spell in order to untap Forsaken City. But it meant that the Oko was more vulnerable to a Thoughtseize effect. So I attack for 4, that puts my opponent to 7. I kill them next turn, so I don't need to necessarily turn the Tormod's Crypt into a creature. Since I have the graveyard on lockdown and 2 counterspells as backup, I don't think I need to take any risks when it comes to eliminating a layer of protection. Unmask targeting me. Yes. Resolves. Alright. And we get there with the alternative sideboard plan of boarding in good cards and boarding out the Stasis portion of the deck. Actually, on the draw, I'm going to bring in one more Pithing Needle for Grizzlebrand and board out one Veil of Summer. The Veils are obviously very good, but they're better on the play. So another reason to board out the Stasis portion of the deck and the Root Maze is that my opponent is potentially playing, not Back to Nature, the green card that if you control a forest, you play it for free and it destroys all enchantments. That means the Stasis lock isn't really a lock. I always forget the name of this card. Back to Nature? No, that's the one in a green. Destroy all enchantments. Green card, if you control a forest, destroy all enchantments. Alright, there are more cards showing up here in this search. Reverent Silence, there we go. Reverent Silence is what I'm thinking of. We just started, Jerry. We are currently 1-1 in games. We lost game 1 in a decisive fashion. We cobbled together a win in game 2. With Stasis out of the deck, our blue count for Force of Will is probably a little low. I guess 19's fine. My opponent has begun the game with 7 cards in hand. I don't think this hand is bad. But I think a Leyline hand is better. This isn't the Leyline hand I want, but this is the hand that I'm going to keep. So if I don't get turn 1'd, this hand's very good. But, we'll see. Alright, you Thoughtseize me. Goodbye, Crypt. And the rest of this hand is now much weaker. That's okay. You don't continue mulliganing to beat discard. We can potentially just hardcast that this game. So my opponent knows I have this Daze. Well, that's happening. I can't stop that with a Daze. And it is actively bad for me to attempt to stop it. A Grizzlebrand and an Ashen Rider, you say? Terrifying. So I really have to daze that, or my opponent gets something this turn. But my opponent knows that, and that's why they're making this play. It protects their actual piece of disruption. So we're going to ponder and look for a land, or the other Tormod's Crypt. The daze is interesting. If my opponent is just banking on playing a 2-mana reanimate card, we can potentially get our opponent there. So I am going to take this. Please don't play land. Just play a 2-mana reanimate spell. Let me have it. That's a good start for me. That means the follow-up spell is more likely to resolve. It also means that the Dark Ritual last turn may have been a bluff from my opponent. This could be them actually digging for the reanimation spell. Hardcasting this Leyline is pretty terrible now that there's already 2 creatures in the bin. So if it does make it to my turn, I'm just going to Oko one of my birds into an elk and go from there. No, yes. Whew. Whew. So I know I don't want the card on top of my library, so I'll go ahead and fetch here. So real questions, do I just turn one of these into an elk now? So that next turn I can attack for 6 if my opponent can't produce a Grizzlebrand. No, like, Leyline doesn't nuke the graveyard when it enters. So Leyline solves no problems. So this is just a replacement effect. So Leyline does basically nothing at this point. So I think we're just playing towards the line of my opponent's last card is not another reanimation effect. Their turn may now be just flashback Faithless Looting. So I now need to assume that my opponent's last... that might be clutch. Yep, loot away. And then play me one more 2-mana reanimation spell. Notably, my opponent has the Ashen Rider in the bin. So that does deal with my Oko, which otherwise would answer their creatures. Alright, there's a Reanimate, which is not particularly good right now. Oh, come on. 2-mana reanimation spell. Let me have this with my 3rd days. Let me put up a W for Stasis. Yeah, Reanimate, not the greatest on the current board. So if they reanimated Ashen Rider, they'd go to 2. I'd attack in with 2 creatures, and that's that. Two mana. Tap them. Ooh, that's a reanimate. So I have to let that resolve. So I think they have to exile one of my birds to stay alive. Yep. Yeah, that's fine. Nice. Although slightly awkward in some ways. So now we can just turn this into an elk. I don't even know that I want to trade bird for it this turn, because that puts it back into the graveyard and my opponent could rip a reanimation spell. So I think instead, now I just play a Pithing Needle on Grizzlebrand. And then it being on Grizzlebrand isn't particularly relevant with my opponent at 2. This is just kind of the, like, in case something goes wrong scenario. Really, I'm just looking to turn this into a creature on my turn and attack for the win with it. I think that was a trolling comment there. Yep. Hey, I have won games by needling LED. I'm just saying, sometimes that stuff works. Usually not against your Moto players, but sometimes in real life, desperate times call for desperate measures, and the only way you can win is by your opponent not knowing some rules interaction. I explained what I had done to my opponent after the match, and they were just like, oh my god. It's kind of one of those things where, like, they were upset at themselves, but at the same time, they're like, all right, I respect that. So the Hackbert, my counter argument there would be, what could my opponent possibly have that they would draw into that I couldn't days later? My opponent is dead on board. Yes, that's the joke here. You cannot needle LED and actually shut it off, but I just, like, Stoneface was like, needle LED, go. And my opponent, who hadn't been playing the deck very long, did not understand that it was different from Phyrexian Revoker, because I had just, like, revoked it the previous game, and they thought it was, like, the same thing. So there are situations like that where sometimes, like, everything is so bad that you just need to make a bluff play and hope that it gets you there. And that's one of my favorite times where, like, it works. Then there's other times where I've tried that, and my opponent just looks at it and it's like, that doesn't work, does it? And I'm just like, nope, it doesn't. Then why'd you do that? Because I'm so dead. Hello and welcome. This hand looks good. We don't have a basic forest, right? Nah, who needs that? Alright. So we have 2 counter spells to protect our ranger plus stasis. My opponent has mulliganed once. Yes, you have a Chromox. I wish I could do like some crazy like wave stuff with my eyebrows or something like that to accent that moment, but I got nothing. Blood Moon. Can I just win if I let this resolve? I feel like the answer is no, because I have no green source that's basic to draw into. So I guess I have to force this. I don't really want to, but I can't cast any of my good cards without this. Yeah, Red Prison trying in every way possible to defeat me this league. Trying to get me to register it twice. This is going to be good. Now, excuse me, as I fetch a non-basic land. Against the prison deck. Don't try this at home, kids. Also, opponent, please play Mountain into... What? What? That was it? That's all you had? Okay, alright. So, Pithing Needle is good against Chandra and Karn. Oof is reasonable, but not insane. Tarmogoyf is very good, as is Gaddock. So Green Suns are going to be better than normal this game. It's going to be contextual. I hope to not have to make that decision on turn 1. Like, I hope to have access to some other turn 1 play. So my opponent can win through Stasis with Goblin Rabblemaster in play. Root Maze doesn't make creatures enter tapped. So that's awkward. I need to trim on some 1-drops because of Chalice. I think I'm going to trim 1 Root Maze, 1 Stasis, 1 Quirion Ranger, not play the Oof, and trim a Scrib Ranger. What have I done to deserve this Forsaken City start? So, turn 1, Forsaken City, Bird. Pitch a card to untap Forsaken City. Play Stasis. Is not the worst. But I feel like my opponent can beat that so easily. Like, I'll just be like stone cold dead to a Chalice. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan. I like this hand way better. So I'll have Force of Will, Brainstorm for my opponent's opening play. I think I throw back a Gilded Goose here. No, there's no basic forest in this deck, which seems like a mistake to me. But we're registering Stasis, so, like, let's be real. We don't care too much about some of the smaller mistakes in deck building. Now, excuse me, while I, once again, fetch a non-basic land against the Blood Moon deck. So I could play the Stasis this turn, but my opponent doesn't need to start skipping their untap steps yet. So let's... Oh god, is Teague or Root Maze better this turn? It's like real close. Oh wait, do we just get to do both with Quarian Ranger since I haven't played a land yet? So like, green, Quarian Ranger, white, bounce, untap. Yeah, okay. So Quarian Ranger, white, activate, choose this, return this. I get to do everything. Land, green, white, Teague, green, Root Maze. What a turn! I think we just won. Now we just, like, Stasis and my opponent never gets a red source for the rest of the game. I wonder if we were getting ghosted that match. Or if my opponent is just, like, tilt conceding because they're losing to Stasis. We don't know. So you remember at the beginning of the day where I said if I went 2-1, 2-3, I would be ecstatic? We started this off pretty well. I'm impressed. Halfway there. Oh, somehow cobbling together wins with Stasis, despite there being a whole bunch of really bad cards in the deck. Pretty sure those are the lyrics. Not exactly sure. But it's something like that. How did we win game 2? Well, on turn 2, we made Quarian Ranger, Teague, and Root Maze. What's up with all these awkward hands? Whatever, I'll whack the keep button, no fear. What do you got for me, opponent? I'll force a will it. Then I'll daze it, then I'll daze it. Unmask targeting me. Well, fair. We're just going to play against Reanimator again and win on the back of those light lines. Nah, Bon Jovi wouldn't do that. We all know he is a avid Magic player. That other song where he talks about being a cowboy and riding on a steel horse, that's actually just a reference to one of the 4 horses from the deck 4 Horsemen. Little known Magic fact. Nice. Thought sees me. Why not daze? I'm going to be missing land drops otherwise anyway. Do I ponder and look for a land? Or do I just save this to have 2 counterspells? I think I save it to have 2 counterspells. And we just make our days in hand better. Opponent's probably over there going, like, what sort of Urza pile is this? Little do they know. Yeah, we're 2-0 with Stasis. I don't know how it's happened, but it happened. Note opponent now, like, fetching with Polluted Delta on their main phase out of fear of more Pithing Needles. Yeah, I know. I didn't expect to win any games tonight. Now I'll ponder. We need to hit a land here. Technically, that is a land. But, like, seriously? I want better than that. Nope. We are undefeated thus far. Man, should have named Delta, apparently. I will daze the crap out of that flashback looting. You kidding me? I'm not letting you put those idiots in the graveyard. I know what they do. Since I made my land drop, I'm just going to pass the turn with Force of Will available. Unmask targeting me. Resolves. You probably take my Force of Will, then I can just ponder for a land and play a Gilded Goose and go from there. Nice. No need to force it. Do I have anything I actually want to get this turn? With Ponder. No, not really, but I'm probably just going to cast it anyway. Oko next turn, though, is real cool. Let's go Root Maze, Oko, Island, Shuffle, no. Take Island, Land, Goose, which conveniently creates an artifact. Pass the turn. And oh boy, this Oko is a crazy clock. because I just get to plus all 4 times in a row because I already have like these foods and pithing needles, and I don't need one of the needles. So this is just super, super strong. No power on you, Mr. Gilded Goose. But I might just turn you into a food next turn. Yeah, so now I get to Root Maze to just help with the aggro plan too. So I Scrib. Does it take green to do this? So I Scrib Ranger, bounce my Forest, play Root Maze, plus on this Gilded Goose. So I guess we can do this in the most optimal way, where I just turn this Goose into an idiot now. Attack for 6. Take my opponent out of double activating range. Alright, so activate this, untap my Goose, return a Forest, play Tropical Island, play Root Maze, pass turn, and my opponent is dead on board to what I have going on, and Grizzlebrand does not get them out of it. They won't... How are we winning? How are we winning? I don't understand. So because we got game 1, now we just need to mise one of the 2 other games with Leyline. So like we play Needles, or sorry, we play, I think we did Crypts, Tarmogoyfs, 3 Veils. I don't remember whether or not we brought in the other Pithing Needle before. We boarded out the Root Mazes. We boarded out the Stasis. And then I trimmed some of the stuff that is just worse without it. So I think those were like some number of like Quirion Rangers and Scrib Rangers. Did I go all of the Quirion Rangers out? And 1 Scrib Ranger out? It might actually be more optimal to do it the other way, though. No, I'm going to keep all of my Dazes. Dazes are blue for Force of Will, and we really don't want to have to like pitch an Oko to a Force of Will if we can avoid it at all. No, Teague only stops non-creature spells. No worries, like, if you're not playing one of 2 or 3 decks in Legacy that regularly run Teague, like, you might not know the full text of the card. Snap, keep. So, opponent, did you bring in answers to Leyline? Sure, Teague does stop Reverent Silence, and that's a consideration for Game 3. Kind of just want to hold up this Veil of Summer and pass the turn. I think the Ponder and Brainstorm become more valuable another turn down the line. Yep. Again, these are the Faceless Lootings that you like to see, where your opponent has to send the cards into exile and they don't get to flash back. Ooh, and got rid of the value off yet another one of those. Alright, well that's less good. So because we know we're going to fetch, I'm just going to play this out now. Yes. So let's send back Leyline and a land. Fetch. They let it resolve. Am I just naming the Bloodstained Mire? I mean, I'm obligated to, right? It's the law where if your opponent doesn't fetch in response, you name it. Bloodstained Mire. Note that if my opponent goes land petal, wear tears both my Leyline and Pithing Needle, I will lose it. That's a clock. Yes, I am aware they're on show and tell now. That's what the underground seat means. We have a decent amount of counter magic to find. No, I am not supposed to just play the bird. I'm supposed to keep the birds in hand and try to brainstorm them back into my deck. Nice. I will take that Oko. So I guess play Goose, hold up Veil, Oko next turn, turn the food into a creature. Is my line. Reanimate, target Birds of Paradise. Resolves. So now the real question is, do I just make Bird into a 3/3? Because that line may be indicative that my opponent just needs the mana to show and tell. I need to decide before I attack, because if I just want to be aggressive, I'm supposed to just turn the food into a creature right now. This is a surprisingly weird decision. The other thing is that if I cast the Oko, I leave, and plus on the food, I leave the shields down. So, what if we go for yet another line? Where I leave the shields down, but I just, like, swap the food for the Birds of Paradise to take it back. No, I can't do that, right? It's -5. That doesn't work. Life's weird. I guess what am I really looking to? No, the needle's still important. That just gives my opponent even more mana. Alright. Alright, what if... So I guess if I leave them with the bird... Alright. I'm giving them their mana back. Because if I leave them with the bird, it gives them mana anyway. So the line that I'm taking is going to let me hold up an activation for an Ashen Rider. Sorry, hold up mana to Veil of Summer, Ashen Rider. How are we 3-0 with Stasis? Actually, I'm going to take just a minute and grab a cough drop. I'm coughing a little bit. I will be right back. Alright, and I'm back. So there's a set of cards on screen. That's the Cardboard Live extension. That does let you pull up the deck list and hover over the cards at any time. Cardboard Live is one of my sponsors, and they are the best. They have really just changed the streaming of Magic. Oko's a good Magic card. You can shove Oko into a lot of Tier 3, Tier 4 Legacy decks, and Mize wins off the power of Oko. Felchmaster, thank you very much for gifting that sub. That is our second sub of the night towards our goal. You want to know where you can shove an Oko? Into any deck. What else are you thinking? Jeez. Really, though, this is an insanely good Oko deck. I do want to praise that from the Stasis front, because we have, what is this, like 16? 15 1-drops that we don't mind converting into Oko, and many of these are going to let us play Oko ahead of curve. So, Stasis portion of the deck aside, we are a very good Oko deck. I also think we're very good against Reanimator, because in Game 1, we have Counter Magic, Pithing Needles, Oko, and then in Game 2, they don't really know what's up with our deck, and they're not necessarily expecting Leyline. So I think we're going to get a lot of free wins against decks like Reanimator that aren't going to know what we're doing. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. Like, I'm really trying. I don't want to talk inside baseball too much, but maybe at some point I'll put up a YouTube video about it. But in the last 2 weeks, I've changed kind of some of the structures of like my donations and my stream schedule and stuff, and it's really paid dividends for me. I think my content is going to become better and more frequent because of the changes that I made, if we can continue like this rate that I'm going at. What do you mean I'm not currently playing in any tournaments? I'm 3-0 with Stasis. MTG bot, you give me credit for my wins. Opponent confirmed, too scared to fight. MTGO hates Stasis. Find out Medea Magica's one trick. Get some real clickbaity taglines going. Now someone is prepared to battle me. This hand has lands and spells. Keep. Oh no, opponent has mulliganed twice. Many times. Alright, so we're probably playing against either Dredge or Reanimator. We don't have an amazing start against either of those. How am I 3-0 with Stasis? Well, I'll have you know, I am a skilled magician. Quiet with that talk about Oko. Oko has not carried me to a single one of my wins tonight. The 2-3 dream is confirmed dead. Hey, Blake. Yeah. Hey, Bailey. Hope you're having a good night. Hope you enjoyed a little bit of extra time off between Thursday night and Friday. I know I have been. So really surprised to see my opponent to go down to so few cards and then play Ponder. That might be indicative of something like Show and Tell. Am I root mazing this turn? It's awkward with my fetch land. I think I want to play Bird this turn, because then next turn with Quarian Ranger gets pretty gross. We already have a daze for if my opponent goes for something degenerate on their turn. Yeah. Are we playing against, like, Blue-Red Delver that mulled to 4? I actually, like, literally don't care that my opponent wastelanded me. Like, I'll just fetch another drop. No fear. Why not forest? I don't know, man. It feels like there should be a forest in this deck. But I guess they're bad with days. Should have considered brainstorming somewhere in there a little bit longer. We're already playing around days with Quarian Ranger. We just bounce this forest and bird. Haha, tapped fetch land, sucker. He says as he plays his own tapped fetch land. This is not a great brainstorm. Do I care? I can bounce this forest and pay with bird. I don't think I care. I think I just brainstorm again. I can daze this too, but it seems like a poor use of my daze. Oh, force. That seems good. So next turn, I can shuffle away some of this stuff if I want, but honestly, all of this stuff is pretty good. Do I actually want this Zenith? Not really. So let's bury that and put the Ponder on top. Play a land and attack. And I'll happily redraw the Ponder, so I'm not going to fetch during my upkeep or anything. I might fetch before this brainstorm, though. Or sorry, I might brainstorm before the fetch. There's one dead card on top. I think I'll do that. They'll put back the dead card and then the worst of the remaining cards. We'll put back Island, Root Maze. Fetch those away. Just get another trap that enters tapped. So let's go green, activate this, choose this. Actually, do I want to... Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I just want to Ponder and drop the shields on the force. Bouncing my lands is kind of bad with Root Maze. Alright, Death by 1,000 Needles. Someday Phil will find the Stasis. Or an Oko. Honestly, I'd probably prefer the Oko to the Stasis. So these dazes are so good since my opponent can't fetch a base it. That just means this daze gets this. So my opponent can fetch a land, but it enters tap, so they can't use it to pay. Felchmaster, thank you very much for that continued support. That is going to unlock our donation goal of the day. This is hilarious. Stasis! Stasis! Scrib Ranger. Man, I really wish I had like one main deck Tarmogoyf. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna play this during my opponent's turn to speed up the clock. I am just like hilariously bouncing these lands. No, Oko's great. Actually, I can just hard cast this daze, can't I? And if my opponent dazes me back, I just use Quarian Ranger then. This is even better than I thought it was. I don't play the Scrib Ranger this turn, but I don't think that matters. This is also just a huge blow to my opponent's morale. Oh, now you fetch. So now I'll play a Scrib Ranger during their end step. Unfortunately, though, if they have something cool, it does get to hit play this turn. Yep. And the other Root Maze isn't amazing. The other Green Sun isn't amazing. You see what I did there. So I guess we're just Green Sunning for another Scrib Ranger, unfortunately. Actually, no, we're going to Green Sun for a Goose. We'll keep this to shuffle. So we'll Green Sun for a Goose. We get to attack for 1. You're too small. Get a Goose. Always yield to that. So it's that enters tapped, which is hilarious. So I can't crack the food immediately. So we need a Goose. Sorry, we need an Oko or a Stasis before my opponent like, gets their way out of this mulligan by attacking with this guy too many times. All right, that occurs. Oh my god, I fucked up. So I could have tapped for red, untapped, tapped for red, and killed their Arcanist. Punt! Punt! Oh my god! No. So I'm going to lose one more creature than I have to this, but I can do it when they attack with it. Just did not think about that until it was too late. Nice. Okay, so I let them cast it and target. Target the bird. Make red. Choose this. Bounce that. Make red. Results. All right, we lost one more creature than we needed to there. But that was not bad. Yeah, 6-turn clock. Opponent has one card. Maybe a counter spell. That's very good for them. Kind of. It's good for them if they found a gas card. But it appears that the answer to that is no. This is actually insanely good for me. Like, I'm not going to get aggroed out because I have this food. I have my opponent's top decks covered with force. And every turn is just more and more floating life. Yeah, I'm fine with them brainstorming. I am only going to counter a card that I actually care about. The Preordain is tempting because my opponent is just going to, like, bottom the 2 cards from the Brainstorm and clear them. But again, there's so few cards that I actually care about. Like, do I even answer this Delver? I feel like the answer is no, right? Like, I just trade Aquarian Ranger for it. Otherwise, I pressure the life total faster than they do. And, like, my Gilded Goose totally invalidates this Delver. Yeah, your Delver resolves. Goose! So one thing to note is that if the Delver blind flips, and my opponent doesn't trade it for a Quirion Ranger, it does block these. So, like, there are worlds where I should have just forced the Delver. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing about my current situation, is, like, as soon as I draw Oko, Stasis, like, we're just, like, so done. And if my opponent's Delver deck is forced to hold back and not attack every turn while I'm just, like, Gilded Goosing, I am okay with that. I can also just, like, find my other Scrib Ranger, which has protection from Delver. Perfectly happy with that draw. And we'll just pass the turn here. Start eating some food. Maybe I was greedy for letting the Delver resolve. But I still just kind of feel like it does nothing. There it is. Hello, Senor Oko. With Force of Will backup and the ability to beat Daze and Pierce. Force pitching Daze. Force pitching Force. So opponent can still have a Bolt and live. But even if they have the Bolt, I don't really know where they, like, go. Otherwise, they, like, chump block here. You have to have the Bolt. Petty Theft. Oh, this is just an alternate art Brazen Borrower. Sure. Can I still eat this? No, I can't still eat this, right? I can make a mana of a cup. No, I can eat it with the goose, because it's still a food. But that doesn't really do anything. Yeah, that's all fine. Like, you take one, and then any elk attack is lethal. Oh no, yeah, I should have fizzled it so they couldn't have hard cast the Brazen Borrower afterwards. Good call. What's the line now? I think it's just continue to plus on my stuff. So, like, just turn the food into an idiot, create 2 foods on my turn, and just grind my opponent out. If my opponent attacks the Oko, I'll chump block with a Gilded Goose, because that'll be indicative that they've drawn a Lightning Bolt. Oh yeah, I can only block creatures with flying. That is unfortunate for my opponent over there. I mean, they have to have a bolt, right? That's the only thing that makes sense with the line that they've taken there. Nope, it is just death. Yeah, Mats, by that I mean if they want to stay alive, they have to have a bolt. Or I guess another borrower or a braid or something. So I guess there's more than one thing. That was a really long game one. We did not draw a Stasis or an Oko for a very long time, though. That's the only reason why it took that long. So my main deck Needles are not great here. My Tarmogoyfs are probably very, very, very good, as are my Veil of Summers. So if I want to play all 4 Veils, which I don't know that I do, if I want to play all 4 Veils, I need to cut four cards. Stasis Root Maze is basically how we're planning on winning this game, other than just like the Oko steal a game thing. So what don't I want? Veil protects my stuff, but doesn't answer my opponent's threats, and I think I do need both. I really wish I had a basic forest. So let's trim one of both of those. Let's play 3 Veils and trim 8 days when I'm on the draw. Again, imagine how much better this hand is if I just have a basic forest to go and fetch. Like, it's just so good if I had forest. Yeah, but we're not leading on Quarian Ranger on turn 1. We're leading on Bird on turn 1. So, like, the scary thing that we can't play around because we don't have forest is just, like, Bolt or Daze followed by Wasteland on our trop. Alright. That's not so bad. So the Delver will flip next turn. but I'll get to Brainstorm into Quarian Ranger, and that protects my trop from a future Wasteland. Alright, I do not want Forsaken City, and I'm going to throw back one ponder. No, my opponent didn't miss a land drop, they dazed. Yeah, so of our mana dorks, the one that we want to save to play last is the Gilded Goose, because it's the most valuable as the game goes along. So I'm currently most scared of my opponent tapping out for a 2-mana. That seems like an early use of that card. That is like a top-tier sideboard card that might be able to get a 2 or a 3 for 1 later on. I don't know about that play for my opponent. It may be indicative of a daze. And like my opponent wants to make their daze or pierce more live. There's half the combo, but I don't know that I really want it. Because I feel like my Quarian Ranger is pretty valuable right now. I do want the green sun, so I'm going to keep these. I guess I play the Goose this turn over the Quarian Ranger. Having something in play that Quarian Ranger can use to untap next turn is potentially valuable. Especially since I showed them like a Scrib Ranger earlier on in match 1, and that thing just invalidates their current clock completely. So I can play Quarian Ranger for free. If my opponent has Amulet of Vigor in their Delver deck, that would indeed get me. Force of Negation, huh? I will force back. Kez, check the Cardboard Live extension on screen. Ooh, a Pyroblast. I also have a Tarmogoyf that I can go and get. I think I'm drawing a land for my turn. Come on, man. You're better than that, Ross. You're better than that. Just? What more do I need than Stasis to please you, Drake? But to seriously answer the question, yes, it is blue-green Stasis. Do I play the Root Maze? I don't think I do. I think my Quirion Ranger is valuable right now for untapping reasons. I can pay 2 mana, make a Goose, untap this. It doesn't really do anything. I'm going to assume that my opponent's last 2 cards are not Bolt and Bolt. And so I'm not going to eat a food, I'm going to make a food here. And bank more life for the late game. Oko. Tarmogoyf is pretty great. No, I would be dead in response to making a food at my end step. So now we go Tarmogoyf. We'll untap this. Bounce my forest. And I think this is a point where I'm just going to eat this food no matter what, so I might as well do it now. Lightning Bolt target me. Yep. This is not lethal, opponent. I don't know if you realize it's not lethal. Gilded Goose flies. Let's go to blocks, shall we? I chump this Delver. I kill your creature. I have another turn of survival from this Delver banked here in this food. So I cast a Tarmogoyf. I attack with the Tarmogoyf. Untap this. Return this forest. Land. Eat the food, go to 5. I missed a point of damage. I missed a point of damage by not attacking with this. Top deck Stasis is great. Oh man, I'm dead. I'm dead. If they were to counter my root maze, that doesn't do it either. That would only be 11 damage. Oh, we got so close. So close. On the play, I want another Daze. And I feel like my root mazes are just bad in this matchup. Like, I'll still keep the Stasis. Because, like, Stasis just tapping down their creatures is pretty darn good. But the root maze stopping me from redeploying my lands is probably bad. So for that reason, I will board in another Stasis and out the root mazes. I really did expect to win that one after we turned the corner there. And I think we probably would have won it if I chain lightninged with the birds the first time around. That was that same match, right? Or was that the other one? Because we lost on very, very narrow margins, like one chump block. Yeah, I don't remember. This match is kind of a blur at this point. If it was the same game, we lost due to that mistake. If it wasn't the same game, whatever, we won anyway. No green mana, technically. No consistent green mana. I think we're winning this game fairly instead of unfairly. I don't think I'm ready for the Stasis yet. So I'm going to bottom the Stasis, hope to find another one later. I think I need to start off by playing Fair Magic. Like, I think this is a better fair hand than unfair hand. Because my opponent can just, like, go Land Delver or something like that, start hitting me, like, do one counterspell, and then make my hand unravel. Yeah, that's the other thing, is that if I go for the Stasis victory, it is by no means guaranteed. No, Dryad Arbor's a terrible card. Don't play it in, like, any Legacy deck. No, if my opponent wants to slam volley that early, I'm totally fine with it. I'm just going to look for another land here to Oko with Veil back up next turn. That is none of that. I guess Gilded Goose technically does it. And the Stasis is also just, like, so much better once Oko is in play. Do I use Stasis as bait? Potentially. But, like, given my clock concerns... I'm just going to cast this here. Oh yeah, we're the good guys here. And we're 3-0 with this Archon. It's very good. So now we're just gonna keep making food. We have a very, very hungry Gilded Goose. Yeah. Veil of Summer doesn't protect from that. All right, that's unfortunate. It is what it is. That card is going to be very good against me. No, it doesn't make sense to just ram out Stasis before I have the board a little more stabilized, or until I have more mana sources. This is a more tempting spot for a Stasis, though. Just, like, treat it as something that buys time. Awkward, but okay. So, did I already played a land. Crap. We're so close to having it. So if I play the Quirion Ranger, I can bounce a land, but it doesn't actually do anything. So I'd have to just sacrifice the Stasis. So I need to spike another land off the top. Oh yeah, I guess that's true. We'll figure it out. We'll buy time and acquire cards. I know I'm going to fetch an island, so I'm just going to fetch that now and save myself F6 value. I guess this first turn where I lose Stasis kind of sucks. Actually, I don't want to play that. That is a lie. I don't want to just walk that directly into the Grim Lavamancer. I can save it for, like, Oko reasons later. This game is cascading out of control very quickly. Help me, Brainstorm. You're my only hope. Days, you go back. Land, fetch. New drop. Brainstorm so I can use Ponder to shuffle. Put back both copies of Stasis. Ponder, shuffle. Never mind. That's good. Have we played a land this turn? No. Oh shit, I did play a land. I shouldn't have sacrificed that. I was panicking to F6. So next turn we're going to play Oko and Stasis. My opponent might be valuing keeping their graveyard around for this. Yeah, the Pyromancer is bad for us. So while our Oko is great, I don't think we can win the game in 47 seconds. Even with the Oko. So, we make an Elk, our opponent attacks, and they can just, ignore the Oko, attack us directly. No, if I pay, I can't play the other Stasis on top, and I can have 5 turns with the Stasis that's on top of my library as of right now. That's much more valuable than anything else I have going on here. Well, I can't necessarily protect the Oko no matter what if my opponent wants to go and kill the Oko, right? 'Yeah, the clock is definitely low. But I think this game is probably over one way or another before I actually run out of clock. So my opponent will just bolt this so that I don't get to block. And then I'll stasis them. Whack the F6 button, see what happens. Ah. 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, that should do it. Wait, no, I did my math assuming the Delver flipped. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. Not dead. Do I have another Stasis on the top? Because that would be hilarious. Oh no, don't play another thing. Now another Stasis isn't an out. You jerk, opponent. GG. What a match. Alright, so let's double check myself here. So we're going to add a loam stream into the queue while I'm thinking about it now. Other way around. So goal, we've added 5-color wellman. So right now, as far as things that we have coming, we have High Tide Espervile, a very spicy mono black list that's better seen than explained, Rug Food Chain, and a 5-color loam deck. So this is probably what's going to happen over about the next week and a half. I'm expecting to do streams Monday, Thursday, Saturday next week. But who knows? Other things may pop up. Ebb, I personally want to play more Enchantress, so yes, you will probably see that again. Like I'm making notes about changes that I want to make, so we will play more of that. Guaranteed. I mean, this Stasis deck definitely has more game than what I gave it credit for. You know, I went in expecting nothing, and we've already made our money back on the Stasis stream. So, also, to be able to say that we were 3-0 with Stasis, not dropping games in 2 of those matches, like, I feel really good about that. Sort of funnily, though, the Stasis part of the deck is the worst part of the deck. Like, Quirion Ranger untapping my mana dorks and just letting me make a whole bunch of food and deploy Oko has been just really good. It's like we were it's like we're an odd, fair version of elves that has cantrips. Stasis out, Winter Orb in. You know, that's not the worst idea. Imagine if Maze was Snake Elf Druid and Stasis was opposition. I see what you mean. It does sound fun. But we crushed the Reanimator players with our odd assortment O cards. So, we'll do a debrief at the end. One way or another. Ah, hello, Mr. Cardboard Live James. Good luck. You too, friend. You too. I think I just want a green in my opener, and like triple stasis is pretty bad. Let's ship that. This is good. So we need a mana dork or a few extra land drops, and then we've got it. I'm going to pitch the Scrib Ranger here. Again, wishing for basic forest, but whatever. I guess there's no basic forest in here because the basic forest can't play for stasis. But whatever. So if we get to 3 mana, we can cast the Stasis, being able to pay for it one time, and then use Quirion Ranger to pay for it every turn after that. But we need 1 extra mana in play for Quirion Ranger to start things off. Or, sorry, to pay for the first Stasis. We're looking to draw a Mana Dork or a Ponder next turn to make the dream alive. I don't really want to use this Daze. Man, are we playing against Reanimator again? No. Alright, I don't want to use this. But this is kind of critical to my development here. Another Stasis, okay. I'm going to just fetch around Stifle here. Getting a Trop since we have the Quirion Ranger in play. And we're already going to be exposed to Wasteland. Yeah, that's real good. That means my Quirion Ranger is going the way of the dodo. It's okay. And by that I mean it's okay if my opponent does not have a removal spell. Another removal spell. So I'm going to lose the Quirion Ranger, but then I can end step Scrib Ranger into Stasis. And if everything works out okay, we win. Blue-Red Delver is really good. Breach is really good. Red Prison and Loam are good. Maverick's good. That would be a short list. And then whatever Oko pile of your choice. That also makes the list. Those are the things that I feel like you can just bring and be pretty safe in your choices. I think Maverick is very, very well positioned currently. Yeah, didn't I say Loam and Red Prison? Those very much fill the same general role, where they're like the Chalice deck that has other game. So we're going to start with the Stasis and see if the Stasis resolves. Okay, good. This is what I wanted. So we play the Stasis around the days. Now we play the Bird. And now we try to set up the lock again for next turn. So we don't want to bird first. If we bird first, the Stasis is exposed to daze, and it also means that my opponent can know that a lightning magmatic sinkhole. Okay. Then my opponent can know that a bolt also disrupts the Stasis lock. No, we don't get in. Absolutely not. Scrib Ranger is pro-blue. It stops 3 points of damage. Absolutely not. Seems a little weird to me not to use Magmatic Sinkhole on the Scrib Ranger prior to this attack. Maybe my opponent is going to ponder look for Lightning Bolt and then Lightning Bolt it. Or potentially my opponent forgot about the Pro Blue of Scrib Ranger. I find that that's very common as well. Yep. All right. Free Band-Aid. I would like my opponent to tap a little bit more mana, so that I can shut off Magmatic Sinkhole being an out to Scrib Ranger Stasis. I still have to go in for the Stasis here, just because of, like, how much it prevents. I made a small error. Okay, my small error does not matter. That's good. So I can try again next turn. But I should have tapped the bird, because I could have used Scrib Ranger to untap the bird and bounce forests. So now my opponent will ponder. Honestly, very well. Very, very well. So much better than expected. So I think my opponent just taps out for Magmatic Sinkhole, exiling everything but Ponder, and then crashes in with the team. So I think I got one more turn with the Scrib Ranger than I deserved. So we will recast this Stasis and keep 6 of my opponent's permanents tapped for 3 turns. Hoping to find a Quirion Ranger, Scrib Ranger, or Green Sun in the meantime. Force of will, you say? Pitching all of your cards? Days, return a trop. You made my Stasis cost 1 less mana and make you discard 2 cards. Fool. That worked out super well for me. Since I have so many ways to untap creatures, I'm going to go ahead and tap the bird here to do this. Is Gilded Goose good enough? Gilded Goose just replaces itself. So let me just think about this for a second. So Gilded Goose creates a food for 1 mana, and I can't really use it? No. The Brainstorm, I think, is bad. I just want to naturally draw something that untaps. Force of Will is very bad. So we are going to fetch here, fetch an island, use the island to pay this, so I can leave up green for Quirion Ranger. Awkward, but okay. The opponent can, like, wasteland me to just take me off of the Stasis right now. But they might just make me pay. So if they wasteland me, I don't get to untap, and I am just dead. Yep. So I sacrifice the Stasis. And I have no outs. They have 7 on board. GG's. Oh, wait. We get another game from this. Nice. Jeez, was that really only game 1? I guess that match is blurring together in my head with the previous one. All right, if you chose over for the league, you are probably going to be correct. We probably had about 10 minutes of deck tech time at the beginning, but still. All right, so Needle's out, Root Maze is out. Is that it? I think that's it. But yeah, the over is definitely going to do it. Probably not by a lot, unless we go to another like game 3 scenario. Then we might get to it being a lot. I would like to play first. I don't think I throw this back. Despite the fact that it's missing everything, we have the ability to find everything. And a counterspell. I think this is a game where we just hold off on casting these cantrips for as long as possible. So I don't think I just want to like fire off the Ponder. Because I'm probably going to end up pitching either Ponder or Force to like fight off a young Pyromancer or an Arcanist this turn. And then I'll use the remaining cantrip to dig for whatever I'm looking for. Yeah, Lightning Bolt's fine. Hey, hey, welcome. We're currently 3-1 with Stasis, playing against Blue-Red Delver and down a game. I don't think I want the Stasis right now. Let's brainstorm and reevaluate my hand from there. Well, these are cards. I do not want Stasis. I want every other card that's here. The least valuable card in my hand currently is the Daze. I think I'm going to put the Ponder on top. I can pitch the Daze if I need to. But if I don't need to shuffle, like if I don't need to Force of Will something on my opponent's turn, then I'm just going to redraw that Ponder so that I can Oko with multiple pieces of backup. If I win the Oko fight, that's an Elk. But I can also just try to win the fight over this and resolve my Oko. Like, the counter war kind of happens in either order. don't really want this hitting play. So I'm going to go ahead and fetch. I'm going to make some mana available. And I'm going to force that. Just going to have as much mana available as possible for whatever my opponent has going on there. So like, you Pyroblast me, I'll Veil. And then we beat Daze. Nice. Nice. And now we probably get to resolve this Oko. No, since we won that last counter war, I'm going to jam Oko into a counter. I'm just thinking about whether or not I want to fetch first. So if I cast Oko, my opponent dazes. Double Daze beats us anyway. But if I fetch first, I can 100% play it around 1 daze, but my future cantrips are so much better. No, I don't think they have 2 dazes. All right, we have an Oko on a clear board. Feels good. The other thing is that if my opponent just plays something like an Arcanist or a Young Pyromancer, I can totally just exchange control and take it. And those cards, while not as good on my side of the field, are still fine. Bottom with the Preordain. I like to see that. Yep. All right. Do I want to take Young Pyromancer? I think I do. LCO Dato, thank you very much for throwing your Twitch Prime money this way this month. I really do appreciate it. Your support and the support of others has made it so we're going to play some Loam on stream sometime soon. So very much appreciated. I know how to count to 5 mana for Force of Will. I know what's up. Oh, I'm super happy to hear that. Like, the YouTube VODs are nice, but being able to, like, actually interact with another person is way better. A Braid targeting the Young Pyromancer. I can counter one of these things. I'm more scared of this. Assuming my opponent doesn't daze or something, I get an elemental out of this anyway. And you know what? An elemental turns into an elk real quick. Do I cast you? I think I cast you. Because Stasis is just like hot fire here. These cards are so good. So I cast Stasis. Go down to 2 mana. So use 2 of my mana to Stasis. Use 1 of my mana for Stasis upkeep. So I don't actually have... No, it's not actually a win. It is probably virtually a win, though. So I think I put the green sun on the bottom. Then the drop. Cast Stasis. Take my 3 damage. And just use 3 turns of Oko activations. Then, once Stasis finally disappears, I Green Sun for a Tarmogoyf. Excuse me. Actually, on the draw, I think I'm going to go down 1 Stasis plus 1 Veil of Summer. So iStacks, thank you very much for following. I hope you're enjoying this. It's been kind of a crazy league. Yeah, I expected us to just, like, win or lose very quickly. Just like, oh, I assembled the combo, you're dead. Or, like, oh, I can't do anything and my opponent has run us over. But we're actually a surprisingly grindy deck, which I did not envision. Yeah, turns out, like, Oko Stasis is the actual combo in the deck. We're 3-1. I think this hand is too good to throw back, but, like, Bolt into Wasteland ruins me. That is correct. So if my opponent has Bolt into Wasteland, it is GG. We're done. But the rest of the hand is full of exactly everything that I would want in the matchup. In a braid. Opponent's pretty likely to just braid my goose here. Yep. We're going to go the greedy play and try to ponder for a land here. Fudge. So now the jig is up that I only have one land. So all my opponent needs to do is find a wasteland, and I am dead. I don't think it's worth, like, force of willing the brainstorm here, but it's close. No. Dazing the brainstorm there is not particularly interesting. Yep. Setting yourself back on mana against the tempo deck for a line that's not guaranteed to have true value is, in my opinion, not great. The island off the top's pretty good. Yeah, I'm just gonna let that resolve. No. I'll brainstorm on my turn, and if they want to fight over that, then that's where I have to start considering using my counterspells. But if I were to fight on the previous turn, I brainstorm, pitch my force, and I'm so just dead to a daze or another, like, aggressive card from my opponent. Now this is interesting. This I will force or daze. The question is which one. Daze isn't free here. If I daze, I can't brainstorm into another land and continue to develop my board. So I think my best line is actually force, pitch, daze, brainstorm on my turn into fetch land, play Birds of Paradise, and hope that this Oko can win me the game. Oh, come on, land. Technically that's what I'm looking for. That's awkward. God, Forsaken City is so bad. How greedy am I? One of these Okos is going back. No, Dryad Arbor is terrible. We don't run that. So the greedy line is throw back Oko, Forgotten City, ponder, shuffle them away, try to spike Greenland, play Oko, and not be able to do anything else. The less greedy line, but awkward line, is put back Oko, ponder, play Forgotten City, play Bird, pitch Green Sun to untap Forsaken City to play Oko around Daze. So the problem here is that I think a lot of things beat me. A removal spell in this bird is cripplingly good. A wasteland is cripplingly good. A counterspell is cripplingly good. So my opponent needs to be sitting on a pile of lands for me to really run away with this game. We'll see, though. My life total is also lower than I would like it to be. I mean, the main thing that's beating me is having the bad cards in my deck instead of more good cards. But we're doing pretty well with what I have to work with. Yep. Am I casting Green Sun over Oko this turn to get Scrib Ranger? If I play Oko onto this board, it doesn't particularly do a lot. I think I'm Green Sunning for Scrib Ranger to try to soak up some damage and to make my Oko better the following turn. I will not play around Daze for this Green Sun. No, I can't do that while streaming, if I'm just being completely honest. I have no forest to use Scrib Ranger's activated ability. No, as you've seen with these matches, we're going very long, so I can't really divide my attention and take a minute or two to look over a deck list. So my opponent just bolts the Scrib Ranger. I go to 6. Sorry, I take 6, go to 1. I can... Oh, is there still that braid from earlier over there? There is. So that means that Delver attack plus Lightning Bolt is lethal. GG's. Alright, folks, we won with Stasis. 60% win rate with Stasis. You know, that's great. Honestly and truly. And we were 3-0 to start with. And our losses were actually pretty close. So essentially, the Stasis part of the deck wasn't particularly good. That's kind of all there is to it. We never got, like, just the absolute full-on early lock with like Quirion Ranger, Root Maze, Stasis, like that just did not come together. So instead, our Stasis often ended up being like a tempo or buy time card. It was pretty good once we had an Oko in play. But once you have an Oko in play, most things are good. A lot of our wins were due to our sideboard cards. So our Tarmogoyf's got a bunch of kills. Our ley lines basically single-handedly won us the Reanimator matchups. So what would I do if I wanted to improve this deck list? Just take out the bad cards, play a real Oko deck. You know, no offense to Stasis, but it is not anywhere near close to a tiered strategy. I'm so surprised we did as well as we did. Gilded Goose was great. You've probably seen this popping up in some of like the Urza decks or some of the Oko decks because this card is just really, really powerful if you are playing with Oko. The ability to be an early game mana dork and a late game food sink is very powerful. So you'll sometimes even see it as a one of in decks like Maverick for that very reason. But if you were foolish enough to try to play Stasis again, Basic Forest seems very, very important to me. I would move the Pithing Needles to the sideboard, and I would play a couple of real cards in the main deck that can actually win you games when your Stasis plan isn't working. Like, a single Tarmogoyf would be so huge in this main deck. But I really do feel like you're handicapping yourself if you are playing with Stasis in your deck. So, like, just imagine that if we took this shell that's here, and this part of the deck was good, but we just filled these with things like Tarmogoyf, Tireless Tracker, and things of that nature that are just, like, reasonable in a blue-green or maybe even, like, a bug shell. So fine and Andy, if the Stasis part of the deck is the worst part of the deck, I'm not sure that you want to lean into it more. So you'll see other versions of the deck that have, I think the name of the card is Kismet, that also makes the creatures come in tapped and like go for another lock in that capacity. And often play Enlightened Tutor to enable that. But again, you're playing a 2 or 3 card combo that doesn't necessarily win you the game on its own, and all the pieces are individually bad. So, like, I'd rather just fill my deck with good cards, like Tarmogoyfs, Brazen Borrowers, Vendilion Clicks, Tireless Trackers, like, stuff of that nature. True Name Nemesis. I don't think Stasis has what it takes in this this day and age. Frozen Ether is another one like it. Yeah. So, here's what we're going to do with this Stasis deck. It was fun. We got our wins with it. But, as the children say, we're just going to yeet that one and just, like, get rid of it. And we're going to focus on real decks on this channel. Like Marlin of the Morning Song, Ashiok Dream Render, and Rotting Regisaur. You know, the real legacy decks. So Stasis was fun for a one-time thing, but it didn't feel... the Stasis cards didn't feel powerful, even though the rest of the shell, and especially the ley lines in the sideboard, supported it well. Yeah, James, we ended up 3-2ing with the deck after a 3-0 start, so I'm, like, ecstatic with that. In before, even though you deleted the deck list, Moto still somehow makes you parry. Yeah. So, like, what does it go to if I deleted that deck list now? Red Prison. Red Prison. We just default to Red Prison every time. Is it because it's the top deck? Can I move this deck list up? Oh. No, I can't move this deck list up. It was fun. I will fully admit that was quality programming right there. Folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you are, please consider following, what do you call it? Subscribing, donating to get a sweet deck list on stream or something like that. The support I've gotten from the community, and especially Cardboard Live, huge shout-outs to them, over the last couple of weeks has been awesome. This is going to wrap it up for me. What's next in the queue? So I should be back on Monday night with High Tide. Unless something changes and I decide I'm not in the mood for High Tide. I'm going to go ahead and turn you over to my friend Anurag, who is probably playing more Breach because he's an addict and he can't stop. So cheers, have a great rest of the night.